All right, what is up? How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are having a good Tuesday night. It's been a couple weeks since we've done one of these, but this is the third character tutorial that we're doing, and tonight we're focusing on Zato-1. And joining me tonight, first off, appreciate the time that you're taking to do this. Greatly appreciate it. Well, we got Macho joining us, who's been a really strong Zato player in Strive so far. Has been placing very high in a lot of the tournaments he's been entering and stuff like that. So, Macho, hey, thanks for taking the time to join us tonight, man.
Thank you for having me. Love to spread the knowledge, teach you how to play this character. So, thanks a ton.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess, for those that may not know who you are yet, and I say that yet because you've been definitely doing some work with this character in the tournaments that I've seen you play, especially the TNS series, Tampa Never Sleeps, seen you get, into top 8 and just showcasing what this character does and everything. We were kind of talking a little bit before we started things up to kind of get to know you a little more and everything. This is going to be kind of a unique perspective when looking at this character because this is actually your first entry into the Guilty Gear series, right?
That's true, yeah. I've not played a Guilty Gear game yet. I played Plus R for like one day when Rollback dropped, but other than that, this is my first Guilty Gear game, yeah.
Gotcha. So, so what made you decide to give Guilty Gear a try, with Strive being kind of your first series into the Guilty Gear series?
Yeah, it's funny. Originally, I wasn't really thinking about playing this game when it was announced. I was a lot more focused on Under Night, which was the game I was really focused on before this. The pandemic kind of hit. They announced rollback for it. I tried the betas, and it was just like so much fun. I'm like, I can't not play this game. And that's kind of what just convinced me. Definitely rollback in the betas and just how fun the game is. Gotcha.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned Under Night was a game that you played and everything. What were some of the other games that you played before as well?
Yeah, so this year marked kind of like my 10th year in the FGC, kind of competing. So I started with Marvel 3 back in 2011 when that came out. That was my main game for quite a number of years. Had like a brief hiatus where I played a lot of Melee for like 2 years. And then Marvel Infinite came out. I was a top player for that. Got second place at EVO 2 years in a row. That's where most people probably know me from.
Nice.
And then played some Dragon Ball when that came out. Soul Calibur 6. Under Night, fell in love with that game. And now we're playing this game. We're playing Strive.
Nice. All right, before, I know we're going to be talking about Zato here, breaking down everything, but who was your team in Marvel 3?
Zero May Cry.
Okay, all right, fair.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. Hey, I like high tier characters.
hey, nothing wrong with that. Play what you like, especially if it's high tier, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so yeah, kind of get to know you there a little bit and everything. So with Strive, obviously there was a lot of different characters you could choose from. So, what was it about Zato that made you decide to play this character to Strive? What did you like about him? Like, what made you see this character be like, yes, this is the character that I wanted to main when this game came out?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Personally, I like to play characters with a lot of set play, with a lot of really overwhelming offense. Hence Zero May Cry.
Right, yeah.
So when I saw the trailer for Zato, Arc System Works put a lot of trailers that kind of showcased each character. I kind of saw what the character could do, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, there's no way this character is not incredible, just by looking at what the character can do. So when I saw that, I'm like, I got to give him a try. Another thing that I kind of need in a character is, the way I kind of describe it is, I just need the character to have sauce. And what I mean by that is, I need to be able to do really cool technical stuff in game. And if I can't do that, then I kind of the character doesn't interest me. So I like technicality. I like characters to be hard. I rarely play simple characters. I played Seth in Under Night, you know, very high octane, very fast.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. That's just an example. I don't like things to be easy.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, especially since traditionally Zato has always been one of the more difficult characters to play in this game, and like that's been true for like almost every iteration of gear that he's been in because of how he works mechanically. You know, being the puppet character and having to control, you know, his shadow Eddie and being able to do what he wants to do game plan wise and everything. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of different aspects that you have to kind of control with Zato because of the fact that not only are you having to pay attention to like where you're applying your offense and also knowing where you have Eddie on the screen as well, but also, you know, one of the things that we'll talk about as we get more into the character, you know, he has that Eddie meter that you also have to pay attention to too as well to make sure like you don't deplete that and everything. Otherwise, you know, you lose a pretty good portion of his offense.
Oh yeah, this character, I would definitely say he's probably the hardest character to play in the game. He's definitely not like out of reach hard. I think once you learn some of his basic stuff, you can start moving around, start playing in just a couple of days. But you probably won't have all the advanced stuff down. But he's definitely the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, that's cool to know. And yeah, like you said, you bring up how you played Seth and Under Night and everything. Yeah, it definitely. As far as aesthetics and what you look for and everything, it definitely appeals to what it is that you're trying to do with this character and everything. And Zato definitely fits that bill for sure. So let's kind of talk about some of the things with Zato. You know, we'll go over like some of his like key normals. Like, what are when first picking up Zato and you're trying to figure out what this character does, how does he work, how does he operate? What are some of his like key normals that players should definitely be utilizing when they're first picking up this character?
Sure. So I would say first thing you should do is just kind of understand the purpose behind all of his normals. So his main pokes that you're going to want to do kind of in neutral are going to be your 2S, so your down slash. As you can see, that kind of reaches pretty far, right? So it has 11 frame startup, but the hurt box is pretty extended, so it gets stuffed pretty easily. So you want to make sure you're not. I mean, yeah, moments like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good example.
Super active.
So you want to make sure that you know, if you're pressing it, you're going to connect. You don't want to throw that out there. Your fastest mid-range button is going to be your 5S. So it's a frame faster, and it hits twice. So in niche situations like versus Potemkin's armor, this is the button that you want to throw out a lot. Zato, because he kind of has quote-unquote the worst defense in the game, I'm not even going to say it in quotes, he does have the worst defense in the game. You're going to really rely on your jabs a lot to get you out of pressure. So his jab is very strong. As you can see, I mean, this is super far.
Yeah.
Right? I'm hitting you from very far. So a lot of people kind of criticize Zato for not getting mileage off of his jabs, but you know, his jabs don't exist for you to convert into a full combo off of them, right? This isn't Marvel 3. You don't just get a full combo off of any conversion. You know, his jabs exist to give you space, get them off of you, and then kind of start your offense. You know, plus frames is the name of the game when it comes to this character. You want to be able to kind of find plus frames wherever your opponent will let you take them. So that's what your jabs are going to let you do. Both your 5P and your 2P come out in 6 frames. So you do have the slowest jabs frame data in the game, tied with some other characters. Some other notable normals is 6P. Pretty decent anti-air. Goes pretty far. Starts up in 13 frames. I think that's kind of average, if I'm correct. Another thing about this character is that his air normals, all of his air normals are incredibly strong. So what you're seeing here is his JP. So that hits 3 times. great air to air. You can fly after it and kind of start your offense, right? So you can do some stuff like this. His jump slash hits 360, so this is your cross up button. If you're ever going to come down, you don't really know what to press. Jump slash is a great tool. Jump heavy slash is kind of this semi-disjointed normal. I think it is slightly disjointed. Very active, very far-reaching. Kind of hits under him, can cross up in niche situations, and hits very far in front in the later active frames, like there, and very late too. You have jump K, which is very good for air-to-air conversions. So you can kind of do stuff like this. So you're seeing me go to jump K into jump dust, which is also another extremely strong normal. This is your primary. So Zato doesn't really have a traditional air dash, right? He has this flight mechanic, which makes him really unique. You kind of press air dash and you kind of go in a direction, but then you kind of are in this flight afterwards. So if you want to get out of the corner, say I'm cornered, I want to get out really quickly, kind of jumping and dashing isn't too viable of an option. Sure. Instead, if I super jump dust, I'm kind of out really quickly, right? So
yeah.
Dust, it's a great hitbox. It hits overhead, so you kind of have unique fuzzy situations. We can go into that later. But really the main tool is actually kind of as a movement tool. Really strong as a movement tool. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I was going to ask, in regards to his jump dust, so when he does jump dust, if you don't do an air dash or a double jump or anything like that, is he able to retain his air options after a jump dust, or does he lose them all?
No, you do have air options. There is a height restriction, though. So if I, super jump and dust, I can kind of do whatever I want afterwards. But if I normal jump, I can't really get my slash out in time.
I gotcha.
I'm limited to a jump K. See if I can do it. Yeah,
okay.
I can barely get a jump K. I can air dash afterwards, right, and then get a slash.
Okay.
But yeah, so you retain all of your air options. You can actually do multiple dusts too. Do weird stuff like that. So if they're full screen, right, you kind of want to get over there. You can kind of do something like that. Risky, but it's an option.
Sure. And you can do that, I guess, up to 3 times with his jump dust?
As high as you can go.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, so you just continuously do. Okay, alright. Gotcha, okay, good to know. And you had already answered this, but just to kind of reiterate, when you were talking about his 5P and his 2P and everything like that, you said both of those were 6-frame startup, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be the slowest jabs in the game, but they're very strong. If you're familiar with Byakuya from Under Night, it's very similar to his jab, just very, very privileged, very far, but slow. So you get to check very unique options. For example, kind of after S. Dolphin from May, because his jab reaches really far, you kind of have this unique situation where he kind of has to respect your jab, and she has to kind of do different options. So in certain matchups like that, the range really helps out.
Okay. All right, good to know. What are there any other normals you think Zato players should be looking at as far as utilization of the character?
Sure. I'll maybe go into some more intermediate stuff.
Okay.
I would say those are probably his most basic normals, what I went over.
Sure.
So you have his kicks. So you have 2K, so that's a low. Starts up in 7 frames, so relatively fast. Canceled into his sweep, or Gatlings I should say, which is 10 frames. So pretty strong. Pretty strong option. You can do kind of block strings with Invite Hell afterwards, which is this special move that we can go into later. His heavy normals are a little bit more niche. So heavy slash you really only use when you are either doing big punishes, so after a DP, after a burst, after a YRC, you use heavy slash, or in block string. So if you're just gonna do a regular block string like that, you just kind of use heavy slash. spacing wise, it's not too strong. So if we stand at like round start, you know, it doesn't reach. Meanwhile, your other normals do reach. So it doesn't reach super far. I wouldn't use it as a poking tool. It's definitely been more for block strings or for high damage punishes. He also had his 2H, so pretty high reaching anti-air. Very active, very high. The problem is though, wherever you see Eddie up there, there is Hurtbox there. So this isn't like 6P where you can, like, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely getting stuffed out every time.
Yeah.
So this is not a go-to reactive anti-air. This is a preemptive anti-air. So if you know they're gonna jump or press a button, you run up and quickly 2H, right? This isn't something that you're gonna do on reaction. On reaction, you're gonna want a 6P. That's where you're gonna get your upper body invincibility. And then he also has a couple of other command normals. I believe this is new to this game, his 6 heavy slash. He kind of jumps off the ground and does this weird, he hits you with his ribs. But so something unique about this move is that he is off the ground when he does this move, so he's technically airborne, which means you can actually air dash after it. You know, interesting enough. So you get interesting situations where you can kind of go for like a double overhead kind of thing. Because you're also not on the ground, you can kind of low crush certain moves. So Potemkin's body slam, he can do it from like 80% screen away. All I have to do is dash up 6H and it punishes him, which is really interesting and really unique. It is punishable. Not punishable, I should say, but you can definitely stuff it out. So if I ever try to do this and just kind of dash in, I know Soul can 5K that easily. It should be able to 5K that. Yeah, I mean, super easy to stuff out. There is a little bit of a mind game though, because if you do that, I can actually air dash backwards and kind of go back in. But mainly you're going to see this move. I like to use this move kind of as a knowledge check. Like, you know, I'm going to jab, 6K. Like, do you know what to do afterwards? Can you punish with the optimal punish? Or am I just going to be able to take my turn back for free?
Right.
Another way people use it is kind of as a mix-up tool, although I don't believe it's a very strong mix-up tool long term. Some people, they like to use some of his Eddie special moves, which we'll go into a bit, and then kind of do 6H to kind of do a high-low mix-up afterwards. I don't think that's super strong. I think he has other options that are a lot stronger, but that's something you might see. So definitely this is a move that you'll see in like unique niche situations, like we were saying, countering Potemkin's body slam, or just kind of as a knowledge check, you know what to do afterwards. And then his other command normal is 6K, so this is just a standard overhead. Comes out in 23 frames. So it's going to be slower than Uncharged Dust, which comes out, yeah, you see you're getting hit. So Uncharged Dust comes out in 20 frames. This comes out in 23 frames. The benefit of using this move after Uncharged Dust is that on block it's only -2, as opposed to like -15 of Uncharged Dust. So you're going to be a lot safer if you throw this out. You know, I'm not getting punished. Meanwhile, if I do Uncharged Dust, I'm definitely getting punished. It scales less in combos. So if you manage to start a combo with 6K, you're going to get more damage off of it. And you don't get the yellow flare, the orange flare of dust, so it's a little more subtle.
Right.
So it's kind of harder to react to.
So is that like you were saying, even though there's a little bit more startup to that move than the uncharged 5D, in a sense you're applying safer pressure in your offense when it comes to Zato's offense and everything.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a lot safer. And like I was saying, you don't have that big glare, so last round, last hit, if they're not looking for it, this can be a lot harder to react to, as opposed to a dust.
Right. All right. That's good to know. I mean, some things I definitely learned when it comes to, you know, what you're wanting to do with Zato as far as his normals go. Let's go ahead and hop into his specials, because his toolkit with what he has with his specials are definitely unique, especially when you start adding Eddie into the mix.
Yeah, so I'll start off by talking about his non-Eddie specials first, and then we'll add Eddie into the mix. So one of his most important tools for spacing and just his game plan in general is invite hell. So that's 2-2-H, so down down heavy slash. You get this kind of drill that shows up on the ground, and depending on how the drill hits, it's very, very active. And it covers a large portion of the screen. If it hits late, Zato can be plus. And if it hits at the peak, at the very beginning, Zato's -7. So it's interesting to kind of realize, you know, how late did you get hit by Invite Hell? Is Zato plus? Is he not plus? And also just a really great screen control tool. You know, you can't really dash in if I'm just doing Invite Hell over and over. It kind of forces you to approach. And then at that point, if I know you're going to approach like from the air, you know, that's when the 6Ps come out. So a really strong tool. Would highly recommend abusing, but also, you know, understand that if you abuse this, your opponent's going to switch to aerial options. So, you know, get ready to 6P. Another special move that he has is Drunkard Shade. So this is a move that comes out in, I believe, 10 frames, and has 9 frames of active frames. So it's very active. You don't see it too much without Eddie. So one of the purposes of this move is in block strings. If your opponent is mashing out of block strings, you can delay with Drunkard Shade and get a huge counter hit combo. You really only see that in the corner. So that's one of the uses. It also grants hard knockdown on aerial hit, so you kind of get the time to dash up, to kind of do what you want. Yeah, so not a lot of people know about that, but that's actually how you should be ending your combos. If you don't have meter and you know it's not going to kill, end with Drunkard Shade, and then you can kind of go in and do what you want. And then I think his last non-Eddie special move is Break the Law, so that's going to be 214K. So that's where he goes underground, right? So when Zato does this, he can, you know, pass the opponent, go back and forth like that, really do some side switch mix-ups. He can also, you know, side switch. If he has his back to the corner and you're doing a combo, he can side switch to the other side and then make it so that he gets a wall break. Super useful to get that last bit of wall break damage. And there's a lot of other uses with Eddie to do cross-ups, fun stuff like that. Important to note that, you know, this move does have startup, though it's not, you're not invincible frame 1. I think it's like 10 frames of startup. I did it there, yeah, you could see. Yeah, he definitely gets hit, but once he's underground, he's completely invulnerable. He's completely inactionable, actually. So there's nothing you can do that can interact with Eddie when he's underground. So that creates unique situations. So for example, if I know that you're gonna burst off of the first hit I do, so I'm gonna do a 2H and just burst right after. Okay. Normally, like, that would hit me, right? But if I go underground, that's not gonna touch me. So really unique scenario, and I get a full punish afterwards. Oh
yeah. Okay.
Same thing with YRC. So if you just hold down back in YRC, right? And now I'm get a full punish. So that's something, if you know they're gonna go for that, instantly go underground and bait it. So that's another one of the uses. So now let's get to Eddie. So Eddie is, you know, Eddie's what makes this character the character, right? So he has this puppet called Eddie, and you can kind of control him around, right? So you can press forward, Eddie goes forward, you press back, Eddie goes back. Interesting to note that Eddie moves faster than Zato, right? You can kind of see that. So that kind of does have some application and some purpose. So if you see in the bottom left, you see the Eddy gauge above the tension gauge. You see that Soul doesn't have that. So it's unique to Zato. When I have Eddy out, this Eddy gauge goes away. And Eddy gauge also goes away whenever I do an Eddy move. So when it gets depleted, Eddy goes away, and you see it fills up with this red bar. So with this red bar filled up, I can't do any Eddy moves, and I cannot summon him until it completely fills up. So that's important to note. So managing Eddy is an important aspect of what makes this character this character. So you can summon him naturally with 214H, and he appears kind of right in front of you. And you can summon him using the special moves. So his special moves are quarter circle forward, P, K, slash, and heavy slash, and they all do unique moves. So we have 236P, so this move is called Pierce. He does this kind of two jab, kind of jabs at you twice. You have 236 slash, so this is the Toad called Leap. You're going to see this move a ton. Very strong for anti-air control. Super high damaging. You know, you get to the corner. You know, all that damage because you take one Toad hit, right? Half your health. You have 236H, which is Oppose, which is this move. Really interesting because it takes all your Eddy gauge. You can see if I use it, he's going to take all the Eddy gauge. So really strong move. And what's unique about this move is that it has full armor to any move that does not use tension meter. So if you just kind of hit Eddy, you know, Zato is not getting hit at all. So this, a lot of the mind game around this character at high level is when is Zato gonna put out Eddy, or Oppose, I should say. Yeah, you can see it completely eats up DPs too. And you know, if you do hit it, Zato gets really big counter hit damage from it. So that's a move you really want to watch out for. And then you have 236K, which is I forget the name of the move, but I just call it Drill. So you have these drills that come out. It covers just about like 2/3 of the screen. Super strong for space control. Uses half of your Eddy gauge, and really strong for block string. So I think you're like plus 60 on block. You have them in a block string for like a full second. So if you just hold down back, you know, I can kind of run up and really kind of do whatever I want. They're going to use that mainly for space control, as well as mix-ups. And you can do all of these moves when Eddy is out, and you don't have to do the motion, right? So what's unique about this character is he's called two characters in one because, you know, the press of a button is going to activate Zato. You know, I did P right there. However, the release of a button is going to activate Eddy. So here I'm going to release P, and there he does his Pierce move, right? So that's what makes this character unique. So again, with Slash, I release it, and then, you know, there goes Leap. Heavy, I have it held down, I let go, there goes Oppose. So, you know, say for example, I want to do a block string. See, normally without Eddy, let's say I want to just do Slash into Heavy Slash. You know, I can press it and then let go of it, right? But if I have Eddy out, I'm going to get Leap, and I'm kind of wasting Eddy, right? I'm kind of just losing half of my Eddy gauge because Leap you know, counts for half of your Eddy gauge. So what you kind of have to get used to this character is you have to hold buttons down when Eddy is out, and then pressing the correct button that you want. So let's say I want Pierce after my Heavy Slash, so I have to press Slash, press Heavy Slash, and then press P to kind of get Pierce out. And I have to hold Slash and Heavy Slash while I do that. So that's kind of really the premise around Eddy. Another one of the big counter plays is that, you know, Eddy can get hit, right? If you just punch Eddy, he goes away, and that's, you know, it takes a full recharge to get him back, no matter how full the Eddy gauge is, right? If you just hit him, it goes all the way down to 0. So you don't want Eddy to get hit. And that's also where the premise of this character lies in, right? Because you have to control two characters. You have to be conscious of what the opponent wants to do. Are they going to come for Eddie, or are they going to come for you? And are you prepared to stop both of those options? I think last notable thing that you should know about Eddie is know how much each Eddie move does. So an Eddie Pierce does a third of your Eddie gauge, so I'll just summon it naturally. You can kind of roughly eyeball it, but it does 1/3. So I can do it again, right? I can do it 3 times, so it does a third with each. So if you do the math, each punch of Pierce does 1/6 of the Eddie gauge, and that's important. I'll get to that in a second. Leap, so the Toad move does 50%. You can see pretty clearly right there, it does 50%. So 2 leaps and your Eddie gauge is done. Oppose, we already talked about, that does a full Eddie gauge. And then your drills, a full drill does 50%, with each drill doing 1/4 of that, so like 1/8 of your Eddie meter. I know this is a lot of math that we're talking about, but this gets to be important in a second.
Right.
So I talked that we can naturally summon Eddie, right, with 214H. So we can also naturally unsummon Eddie, right? So we do the same motion to summon Eddie as we do as an unsummon, right? So Eddie's out, 50% Eddie gauge here. We unsummon, he comes back fast, right? You see how the Eddie gauge kind of turns white whenever I do that unsummon? So this is a natural Eddie unsummon. It allows me to kind of do, so let's say I want to do 2 hits of Pierce, and now I unsummon, and now Eddie's back. Now I can kind of do more hits of Pierce, right? So this is something you're kind of see from Eddie players, is that they're going to unsummon before their Eddie gauge goes to 0. Otherwise, if they let their Eddie gauge go to 0, they have to wait all this time. You know, I'm trying to pierce, I can't pierce, right? Because it takes so long. So that's something you're going to see players do, and that's really the premise about of the offense of this character, is knowing when to summon, and then when in your strings to unsummon, right? So for example, we were talking about with drill, this move does 50% of your Eddie gauge, right? So you can actually unsummon before it's over. So I can get just 1 drill to come out. So that only does 1/8 of my 1/8 of the Eddie gauge. So if I have just a little bit of Eddie gauge left, let's see, how do I do this math here? So I can do just 1 drill unsummon and he comes back really fast. So this is we're getting a little more advanced here, but this is really what top players are focusing on now with Eddie, is how can I maximize every percent of my Eddie gauge and then unsummon so he comes back, and then I can do another round of Eddie pressure, right? So that's the character. Unsummon summon to control space, know when to unsummon. And I think the last thing about Eddie is that new to this game, he can kind of chain moves together. So like kind of like this, you can do the motion while he's summoned, and he kind of cancels out. So Pierce normally does 2 hits, but this time I'm going to go Pierce, and then I do corsical forward slash, and it kind of goes into leap. So that's pretty much everything there is to know about the basics of his Eddie summons, with some advanced stuff thrown in there.
Yeah, and like some of the other things you were doing there too, that like I was noticing with that, because obviously when you were doing some of those moves and doing some of the sequences with Eddie there, it was also kind of creating space for Zato, like especially in the mid screen, whereas you're forcing the opponent out, which in turn you're having to make them come back and reapproach you in that regard, and you can still utilize Eddie how you want to kind of zone out a character in a sense. And then, when you are able to get your hits and your knockdown and everything, that's when you can kind of approach and then layer that set play aspect of Zato with Eddie. One quick question about the drills. When you have the opponent in the corner, right?
Sure.
Do the drills stay in one spot when they're in the corner, or do they go off screen? Like, do they still
Great
travel?
question. No. So you're eating all drills. You're there.
Okay.
You're there. You're eating everything. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, because I know, like, there's some moves that when you are in the corner, they'll actually go off screen because of the spacing in the corner. So good to know that the drills actually just stay right there on the corner. So that adds a lot of extra pressure, especially when you get knockdowns in the corner and you're able to force your oppression in that spot. So that's that's really good to know. And like you mentioned, you're advantageous throughout that entire sequence too. So you kind of get in a sense, almost kind of do what you want to do in that situation.
For sure, it's like an assist in any versus game, right? So Eddie is your assist, right? And then you kind of do whatever you want afterwards. With the premise that you need to make sure that you're controlling both characters, right? That's where the difficulty comes in. You can't just press a button, have the character do their assist, and then they leave. You got to think about what you're pressing, how you're pressing it, and I think that's just what makes the character super fun.
Gotcha. And kind of going back to like some of your game history you're talking about, and like how you played Zero May Cry and Marvel. When you were talking about how when you do summon Eddie and you're having to hold down the button and stuff like that, and then utilize your different pressure, and then releasing whatever button you have to be able to like access that move, that definitely reminded me of like how Zero players had to utilize their Charge Buster. So I definitely now see that comparison too when you were discussing that aspect with them.
Yeah, it's a little different here because the release of the button is more strict, so it's a little bit harder even with Zato. But yeah, if you've played a character where you have to hold buttons down, like Zero, Virgil, Batista, and Uni, I'm sure in other games there are other characters like that. It'll definitely help you for sure.
All right, so that's kind of an overlook of like Zato's specials and everything. Let's talk about his supers. He's got two, just like everyone else just about in the game. But they have some unique applications with what he wants to do.
For sure. I think Zato, probably out of the entire cast, he has the most utility, I would say, out of his supers than most. So he has two supers. They're called Sun, Void, and Amorphous, but I just call them Sword Super and Shark Super, respectively.
Right.
So they're done by doing half circle back forward with both with either slash or heavy slash. So you have Sun Void, so that's half circle back forward S. So you have a sword that kind of comes out, and you see it automatically summons Eddie to wherever the sword is. So really interesting. Kind of unique stuff there, right? There he is. Eddie's right there, right next to you, ready to apply some pressure, and I can just kind of get in. Keep in mind that this is not a move that you kind of want to throw out willy-nilly in neutral. So when I throw it out, kind of just jump and air dash at me. Yeah, right. So it's minus. You can definitely punish me. This isn't a super you want to just throw out. This is a super that you want to use in specific situations, and I'll show what those specific situations are. So the big utility about the super, besides it being putting you where Eddie is a couple of things. The biggest thing is that it completely refreshes your Eddie meter no matter where you are. So here it's red, sword super, Eddie meter comes back completely. And I'm ready to do pressure again. So we said oppose uses all of it. Again, I'm going to show it, Eddie meter comes back. So the utility of this is, say I use all my Eddie meter in a block string, and I want Eddie back. I can kind of continue the block string and the mix-ups with Eddie there. So super strong there. Another utility is that if I'm comboing you in the corner and I get a wall break, so if I end it with the sword super, I have Eddie back with a hard knockdown, and now I'm ready to mix with Eddie, right? So those are the two biggest utilities. Another thing is that it causes a hard knockdown mid-screen. So if I get a mid-screen combo, so I'll summon Eddie here. Whoops. It causes a hard knockdown, so I can kind of have Eddie do stuff there. You can also do the super in the air, oddly enough. So interesting to note there. And another kind of unique thing about this move that can kind of, it might mess you up sometimes, is that there is travel time between the sword connecting and it coming back. So the sword is Eddie, and the sword has to come back down to the ground. So if the opponent is very high up in the air and you do sword super, it's going to take a second. So yeah, double do it again. So it's going to track, and it's going to take it. You see how Eddie kind of fell down?
Yeah, he just kind of just randomly just fell straight down as soon as he's like just throwing something in the air, and then you see it just come back down.
Yeah, it takes
gravity
a second.
At work.
Yeah, so it takes a second. So here you can kind of see that I can just kind of summon. I can do Eddie moves right away. But if you double jump, you know, I'm pressing P. I'm trying to pierce, and then it takes a while for him to come out.
Sure.
So it's something to keep in mind of, because it can definitely mess you up if you're not ready for it and you don't compensate for it. So that's pretty much everything to know about that super. He has his other super, Amorphous, which I just like to call Shark Super. So super pleasant looking move. Animates very nicely. So that's half circle back forward with heavy slash. So this move also has a lot of unique application. For starters, it's your most damaging super. Excuse me. So if you have a combo that you think is going to kill, end it with Amorphous instead of Sword Super. You can see that goes all the way to like the end of that, you know, the black bar at the top of your health, or the bottom of your health. Meanwhile, Sword Super, it's barely going to do anything.
Right.
So Sword Super is a lot more utility. This move is a lot more damage. You know, combine that with Wall Break, you're going to get a lot of damage from this move. But something that's unique about this move that also gives a lot of utility is, one, it's extremely difficult to punish because you recover very quickly. And two, you get a lot of plus frames from it, and it tracks the opponent. So if I do the super from full screen, this is what happens. So the shark is going to travel all the way across the ground until it reaches you, and you see the damage. So I can actually do this super and just kind of dash up and follow it up, and, you know, assuming you block, I can kind of take my turn and do whatever I want. So that gives it a lot of utility. So in you know, if you don't really know what to do, if you're kind of stressed, you can kind of throw out Shark Super and know that you basically automatically win neutral. So it's extremely strong, very difficult to punish. So only downside is that it has no invul frames, so you can get stuff from the startup. So you cannot wake up and press buttons with that.
Yeah, because you got counter hit there, even though the shark still came out and hit. You still got counter hit off of that too.
Yeah, and even before you see the animation come out, right? Like if I wake up and do it, I guess sweep and then meaty. Yeah, I tried it there. I guess you mistimed the meaty there, but
yeah,
it has no plus frames or no invul frames, that's for sure. Yeah, I keep trying, but it's just not. Yeah. So Zato has no reversals, meterless or with meter. So you rely on a lot of the game mechanics to help you with defense.
And that's where you earlier when you were saying he had the worst defense in the game. Especially if he gets knocked down, the fact that he does not have like a true invul reversal is what really is one of the bigger drawbacks for this character.
Yeah, no reversal accompanied with the slowest jab in the game is what really makes his defense the weakest defense in the game for sure.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, and that's a look at his supers and everything. So we now gone over like everything as far as his normals and his specials, even his supers and everything. So when it comes to Zato, What is your typical game plan with this character? Like, what do you think is the best approach for him?
Yeah, so if I'm playing a player that I've never played before, the way I kind of start is I start with a lot of knowledge checks. Do they know how to hit Eddie when he's vulnerable? Do they run into this move oppose? Are they able to block my mix-ups, which are, they're very hard to react to, but if they can react to them, it tells me that I know they have Zato practice. So some ways to check that is, so this tool in neutral, you talked about 2S, very strong move. So if you block this, so my party starter is just kind of press this into Pierce, and then go in and kind of see what they do. So Pierce, unique thing about Pierce is that you can actually, between the 2 hits, there's a gap. So you can actually punish Eddie in between the 2 hits. It's hard to do. I mean, you can counter him there too. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to hit him. But you can hit him before. The thing is, you want to be careful because it definitely does take some practice. Yeah, just like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hit it between the 2 hits. And like we talked about before, if you do that, Eddie gauge goes to 0, so that's very detrimental to my game plan. But if you don't do that, if I know you're not going to do that, I can just kind of do this and just kind of take you to the corner and do what I want. So in terms of game plan, against a character that's not too experienced in the matchup, which is going to be most people right now, is kind of throw out a pose, see if they run into it. If they're not biting, kind of unsummon. But if they are, I can get big damage off of it. Yeah, so just press a button as soon as I oppose.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get huge damage like that. So yeah, checking to see if they punish an oppose, and if we're kind of just playing neutral, kind of run in, and just kind of do whatever kind of mix-ups I want after that, which he has a ton of. If I go over every single his mix-up, we'll be here all night. But yeah, basically try to get him to block something. So I said earlier, plus frames is the name of the game, and that's really what it is, right? So his jab, like we were saying, doesn't lead to anything, but it lets you kind of put Eddie out there, right? So that lets me do whatever I want afterwards. And that's what makes the character, strong. When I have Eddie and when I have momentum, you're getting hit. Yeah.
I mean, that made sense too, because and I was, trying to find a gap of where that pressure was and everything. You saw Soul got counter hit, and then you were still able to apply your offense how you wanted it. What is so I know, like you said, he's got, obviously he has a very strong mix-up game and everything. What's a pretty beginner friendly mix-up strategy to kind of utilize with him?
Sure. So the first mix-up layer is can your opponent block uncharged dust on reaction, which is 20 frames, which is asking for a lot. It's already pretty hard to react to. So the way you kind of set that up is you kind of do a move and then kind of run up there and then press slash, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to cause you get leap to come out. And then you kind of do what you want there. So if you don't block it...
Oh, don't block it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you get a ton of damage just because you didn't block a 20 frame overhead.
Right.
So that's, half your health because you couldn't react. Super strong. And the other option to that is if you think I'm going to go high, I can go into sweep. And then with sweep, you kind of... the more optimal route is to go into pierce, but you can also go into leap as well. So You know, same kind of damage because you thought I was going to go high. Actually, it's more damage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the layer 1. You know, simple high versus low after Pierce. Another kind of option he can do is, wow, I actually completely forgot to talk about his command grab. I completely forgot he had a command grab.
Oh, yeah.
That's another option.
Yeah,
how did I forget? So yeah, another one of his special moves. So it's Dragon Punch with Slash, so 623S, he does this animation. So that's another kind of his mix-up tool, right? So I'm right up here, he does this long animation. And then after the animation, I'm +7, so I'm actually at advantage after the command grab. And something unique about this command grab is if Eddie meter goes completely away, the animation takes so long that Eddie is going to come back by the time it's over. So super great utility in the sense that if you land it, you get Eddie back no matter what.
And you also have the ability, if you add the meter, you can actually RC after that too and be able to continue your pressure.
Yeah, you can RC, get a full wall break combo. You know, you eat 40% because you wanted to stand and block, right? So that's where he gets super damaging punishes. So like we were saying earlier, you know, something into Pierce, into command grab, you know, say they're expecting that block, you know, you hit them with that, and now they're in the same situation because you're +7, right?
Right.
You can kind of rinse and repeat this cycle. You know, if you get hit, you get ready to confirm, you wall break. So that mix-up alone, just mixing up between Dust, between Sweep, and then a command grab, really strong.
Yeah. And those are definitely two, you know, or in this case, yeah, because of the command grab, you know, three options that, you know, you can set up and just kind of layer from there as far as like what you want to utilize.
Yeah, he has other options. So mid-screen, he actually gets more options mid-screen because you get the ability to side switch, right? So in a corner, you can't side switch, right? You can't jump over them. If I break the law, which is the move we were talking about, I can't cross them up. You know, I can't take the corner by doing this.
Right.
No matter how hard I try. Meanwhile, when I'm mid-screen, I can do whatever I want, right?
Sure.
So something that's unique to this character with the move we talked about earlier, Drunkard Shade, is that this move kind of actually shoots out Eddie. So if I have Eddie unsummoned, Eddie kind of moves a fixed distance.
Okay.
And he kind of crosses up with the opponent. So you get what's called, you know, sandwich pressure, as we like to call it. So say, you know, I summon Eddie. You know, now you're kind of eating this pressure where, you know, Eddie's coming at you from one side. And then, you know, you have to eat all sorts of stuff, and that kind of will mix in with the side switch. So you just block this.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
And that all
you get all sorts
and
of
Eddie's
stuff.
back on top of you again.
And Eddie's back, yeah. That's, you know, you get super crazy mix-ups there. And you get the ability to cover Eddie's Pierce a lot better too, which is something we talked about, right? So Pierce, this move, they can hit it right in between the two hits. So if you're full screen like this, you don't want to let the second hit rock. You want to just, if you're kind of controlling space, let the first hit rock and then unsummon, right? Because if you kind of just do that, the odds of them hitting Eddie is like really high, especially if they've practiced it and know the timing. So it's better to just do one hit and then unsummon, and then kind of summon Eddie and then play neutral again, do what you want. Meanwhile, if I have him in sandwich pressure, you see that jab I did in between the two hits of Pierce, right? That makes it a true block string. So I can kind of keep doing that. Whoops. So all of that's true, right?
Yeah.
You can try as hard as you can, but all of that's a true block string.
Yeah.
So the sandwich pressure is kind of your go-to mid-screen. And then if he gets hit, you get all sorts of pressure that way.
Nice. That's good to know. Like, obviously, again, it's a lot of options that he has, and for newer players that may seem a little overwhelming at first, but I think with you kind of streamlining what you want to do and kind of like setting a basic starting point for players to explore, that is definitely going to be helpful in the long run for sure. So I guess before we wrap up here, is there anything else you wanted to show with Zato? Any final thoughts with the character and everything?
I guess maybe I'll show a couple more mix-up routes really quickly.
Okay.
So a pose is a move that we said is really strong on defense, but it can be really strong on offense as well. So say I know that I'm playing against someone that wants to mash a lot, wants to maybe jump out, try to take their turn however they can. I can do a block string into a pose, and they can't contest me, so I can kind of do whatever I want right in their face. And the only way they can beat it is if they can move really far away from me very quickly, or they can grab me, which is extremely risky. So you kind of have to do a hard reach to kind of dash up, grab if I do nothing like that, right? So otherwise, I just kind of punish you. So a lot of players, they're not going to expect this. They're not going to be ready to jump out. And if they are, then you're fighting someone who has Zato experience. So if they don't jump out, something very easy you can do is just run up and grab them, right? So if if you just don't jump out, you actually get a full combo. It actually combos into the oppose.
Oh, okay, yeah. You get follow up off the throw.
You get a follow up after it. So another strong mix up, right? That you can do. Say they're expecting overhead, low, or command grab. You can kind of cover yourself with a pose. You can even go for a command grab too, right? And then now it's up to them to jump back, right? And if they do jump back after a pose, you can grab them for it. Oops. Right, you air grab them for it, and doing that is pretty safe, right? Because you can't really get punished for doing this. Because say they stay on the ground mashing buttons, so just stay mashing. I go for an air grab. It's I'm safe to do that because a pose is out and it kind of tanks up all the hits. And so what the layer 3 of that mix-up is if you're gonna up back and you're gonna tech the air grab, so just jump back and tech. A second.
Are you wanting me to tech forward? Or?
Just tech a throw. It doesn't matter. Just try to tech the throw.
Okay.
Imagine I'm going to go for a throw.
Okay.
Right? So if you think I'm going to air grab you and I go for a 2H, you're eating 70% of your health.
Yeah, that's a very big chunk of damage.
So just this mix-up alone, you get it's so in your favor, and there's almost no counterplay that your opponent can do.
Right.
But the problem is that if you commit to this mix-up and they guess right, is Eddie goes away, right? That's the end of your mix-up, unless you have meter, and then you can cancel in the sword super.
So it's kind of, in a sense, it's kind of like a high-risk, high-reward type deal where you're throwing it out there, hoping that you'll get that big hit to be able to go into that bigger damage, but if it ends up missing, then you lose all your pressure options that you could have.
Yeah, you lose all of Eddie, and you kind of have to start from square one. But it's extremely strong. The only counterplay that they really have is to jump out and get out of there, or guess right, or red RC Eddie, which is something you can do. So I'm going to oppose and then just press slash into red RC.
Sorry, one more time. You want me to do what?
Yeah, so do slash into red RC when I do oppose.
Alright.
Yeah, so that gets rid of oppose.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying earlier, any move that requires meter will beat a pose. So that includes supers and red RCs, specifically red RC.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the counterplay to that. But again, it's a super strong mix-up. In general game plan, I would recommend, as a closing point is understand, like I said from the very beginning, understand the purpose of your normals. Get comfortable with flying. Understand your angles of attack. Kind of learn how to mix up when you're going to come down, because a lot of people, if you just fly up here, they're going to start 6P'ing. So being able to react to their 6P and then come down with a button, as opposed to just kind of being right here and then air dashing in, right? Because this is very easy to react to. You see him stop there, that's pretty easy to 6P. Or in Soul Space, just even 5K. Yeah, it's really easy to react to that. Meanwhile, if I kind of, mix up my options, I can kind of get in there and start my pressure, right? So flying is a really easy way to get in and establish plus frames if you just kind of read when they're going to press a button, and now you're in there, right? So understand when to fly. Understand, for beginners, I would just say understand the purpose of the eddy moves. It's okay if the negative edge stuff doesn't come immediately. Like we were saying, releasing the button called negative edge. Just being able to use the eddy moves, even if you have to use the motion. Understand why you're doing them. And then as you get more advanced, understand when to unsummon. Like if you know you're going to get no mileage, Eddie's out there. Whoops. If he's out there, just unsummon him, right? You're not going to get mileage from that far. And yeah, besides that, get better with the system mechanics. That's something a lot of Zato players are experimenting right now. How to use BRC properly. How to get the most mileage off of that. How to get the most mileage off of, when to YRC, when to burst, because that's so important as a Zato player, is using the game's defensive mechanics to the absolute fullest, because you have no reversal at all, and your jabs are incredibly slow. So you have to be very strong with knowing when to faultless defense, knowing when to YRC, knowing when to burst. Basic Guilty Gear fundamentals, I would say, will definitely take you far.
Nice. All right. Well, I think it's a pretty good overview of how the character works and everything, and some things to kind of look out for sure when it comes to learning Zato, and how to start your game plan as far as what you want to do with the character and everything. So was there anything else you wanted to add, or do you think it's a good spot to just kind of conclude the breakdown tutorial?
I think that's it. I think watching other Zatos is probably one of the best ways to learn. It's very intimidating to try to learn this character with no reference, right? Because this character is so open, such a black box. It's hard to know where to start. So I would say watching other Zatos. So you can watch, some of my tournament runs. I know, TNS has them on their YouTube channel. Other notable Zato players are, in NA, No Kami. Manib, PepperySplash, all very strong Zatos. And then in Japan you have Gobo, which I think he's probably the best Zato in the world right now. He's really pushing the character, optimizing the character. And you have Ogawa, right, a Zato veteran. Who I think isn't as strong as Gobo, but also, all the basic fundamental stuff that you see me talk about here, he does that flawlessly. So if you need reference for that, definitely watch Ogawa. And also, if you're on Twitter, definitely check out the Twitter handle. So that's going to be hashtag GGST for Guilty Gear Strive _ZA for Zato. So you're going to see a lot of tech there of kind of what to do, how to optimize a character, from both, NA and Japan perspective. So really interesting to see, what we're trying to push and what they're trying to push with the character.
Gotcha. Well, Macho, I greatly appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for joining me to kind of show off Zato and everything. And yeah, the video on demand, the VOD of this, will be up on my YouTube channel as well. for those that want to go back and look at it. And also, it will be time-stamped with each segment. So if there's a particular segment you want to go back to and check out and everything, because it is a ton of information with how to play this character and everything, it will be time-stamped for you to check out to go back and review anything that you might have missed the first go-around. And with that said, Macho, before I let you go, man, where can people find you? Kind of promote yourself a little bit here. Where can people find you and hit you up for more Zato information, or maybe even some games to learn the matchup or learn more about the character?
For sure. So I'm active mostly on Twitter and Twitch, so you can follow me both at FGC Macho, so FGC standing for Fighting Game Community, FGC Macho. Yeah, so I stream on and off depending on my schedule, but lately I've been trying to stream more with this game coming out. So, you know, follow me on Twitch and on Twitter because I post whenever I go live. And yeah, I mean, I post a lot of discussion on Twitter, you know, tech about Zato. And, you know, my DMs are open, so if you want to ask questions about Zato or ask for sets, you know, you can definitely do that too.
Absolutely. Well, Macho, again, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate your time in showing off the character and everything. And, yeah, I'm sure I'll definitely be seeing more of you, especially with the all the tournaments that's going on and everything, and looking forward to seeing you continue to grow with this character in this game.
For sure. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that's going to go ahead and conclude it for tonight here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. But like I said, expect some more Strive tutorial, character tutorials in Guilty Gear Strive in the future. I know there's a couple more I have coming up that's going to be within the next week or two, so definitely stay tuned to that. And with that said, guys, appreciate you watching. You follow me on Twitter at @D_RCB_TV. That's where I do post all my updates as far as when I do stream and stuff like that and everything. And yeah, we'll check you guys next time. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.